Hi all, welcome back to the channel Cloud Knowledge. Today in this video we'll study a Fabric data pipeline scenario where we are going to take the data from the Azure SQL database, from one of the table of the SQL database, copy it to the Fabric Lakehouse. Okay, so we are going to connect through the Fabric data pipeline to Azure SQL database, take the data, copy it to the local Fabric Lakehouse, and then if this copy activity is performed successfully, means the copy activity succeeded, then we'll send a notification email that the pipeline execution succeeded. And if by any reason the copy activity or this entire copy operation from Azure to the Lakehouse or Fabric fails, then we want to send a notification email that the pipeline failed. And in this process, we are going to use the Office 365 Outlook activity of Microsoft Fabric, which is exclusive to it as of the date today, and it's not present in the normal ADF and Synapse Analytics pipeline. So if we go here to the official documentation page of Data Factory documentation under Microsoft Fabric, you can see under the tutorial section here, under the module 3, they have this automate and send notification, where they have this section, add an Office 365 Outlook activity to your pipeline, which is used to send email. And since this product Fabric is continuously evolving and we are in the initial months of it, we are just in July 23, we can see several changes coming in the future. And in this video, we're going to cover whatever is launched already in the portal for this activity. Another thing to note is that under the data pipelines list of activities which are already there in the official documentation, we couldn't see the Office 365 Outlook activity yet here. Probably it will be added soon here. So let's go to the whiteboard here, and we are going to now see what we are going to do. So we are in Microsoft Fabric first, and in the Fabric we are going to create a pipeline. Pipeline will be created using copy activity. The copy activity will have the source and the sink. Source and sink. Source will be Azure SQL DB and sink will be Lakehouse. So we are going to connect to a table here in Azure SQL database and take the contents of the table to Lakehouse. And in Lakehouse we have two options, tables and files. We are going to store the content here in the form of table only. Okay, and then we'll have another activity after copy activity as Office 365 Outlook activity. This activity, it will help us in sending notification email. And to send this notification email, this activity must use enterprise or organizational account. As it is mentioned in the official documentation, if we go down, the service does not currently support personal email. You must use enterprise email address. Maybe in future they'll include the personal emails too. But as of the date, we have to use enterprise email address. So if this copy activity succeeds, then a success email should be sent, and if it fails, then failure email should be sent. And for both these operations, we'll use Office 365 Outlook activity of Fabric. Now let's go to the Fabric. Here we are into our Fabric workspace, which is Cloud Knowledge Data Factory, which is our Data Factory workspace in the Fabric, and we have been using it. We'll now click on plus new to create a new data pipeline. We'll name this pipeline as copy send email. Create. Pipeline copy send email is shown at the top, and here is the first page which shows start building your data pipeline. The first option is add pipeline activity. If we click over it, it will show us the different activities which are already there in the Fabric. So we are going to use the copy activity, copy data activity. We'll click over it. The copy data will appear in the canvas. it has the same settings as ADF and Synapse. So in the General tab, we'll need not do any changes. We'll go to the Source tab. In the Source tab, we are going to connect to an external source which is external to Microsoft Fabric and is Azure SQL database, which is present in the Azure cloud. So the data source type selected will be external. Next option is connection. Connection will create a new connection to the Azure SQL database. Click on plus new. Here we have to go to the second section where Azure specific services will be displayed. We'll select Azure SQL database. We'll click on continue. Now connection settings page will appear, which will ask us the server and database details. So in order to configure these connection settings, we'll go to the Azure portal and take the details of one of the SQL database which we are going to use in this example. So we'll go to the Azure portal. Here we are in the SQL database which is named as CK SQL DB, and in the overview section we can see the server name at the top. We'll copy the server name. We'll paste the server name here, and the database name is CK SQL DB. So we'll name this as CK SQL DB. Okay. Now this is done. We'll click on OK. Next is connection type. Here we have the option of testing the connection. We'll click on test connection. Connection is successful. Here, important point to note is that the login which is used for the Azure portal and here in Microsoft Fabric is the same. Hence, any extra authentication was not required. Connection is successful. Connection type. Here we could see the different options which are coming in the drop down. The connection type is Azure SQL database. We'll select this, and then after selecting Azure SQL database, it will show us these options: use query, table, query, stored procedure. So we are going to use table option. Then if table is selected, it will show us the different tables which are present already in the SQL database. So we will select from the drop down any one of the different tables which are present here. Okay. So if we go to the Azure portal, to the query editor of the CK SQL DB, we have different tables present here, and we are going to connect to the dbo.cumsum. And on this table, if we hit select query, we could see it has 2 columns and 4 rows. So this is what we are going to select. We'll write cumsum. So it will display us dbo.cumsum. This table will be selected here, which is having the data here as shown in the Azure portal. So settings at the source level is done. We'll go to the destination. In the destination, we want to land the data into the workspace, that is the Fabric workspace Lakehouse. So we'll let the data store type as workspace. Workspace data store type will be Lakehouse. Okay. Among all these 3 options, we'll take Lakehouse only. Lakehouse will create a new Lakehouse, or we can use the existing Lakehouse. Existing Lakehouse, we already have Cloud Knowledge Lakehouse, which we have created in the previous tutorial. Okay. So in this example, let's create a new Lakehouse. CK Lakehouse. We'll click on create. Successfully saved, and we could see that the Lakehouse is created. When the Lakehouse is selected, it will open up another option called as root folder, and the root folder will show us 2 options: tables and files. Whether we want to store the data from the copy activity in the form of table or as files. So in this example, we'll leave it as tables. In the previous tutorial, we have used the option files. You can refer that tutorial where we have used it to understand this more. Okay, so in this example, we'll leave it as tables. Then comes table name. If the table is selected, it will show us table name. If file is selected, it will show us the file path. So tables is selected in this example. Here we'll check on edit and can give the table name. So let's say the table name is cumsum. We'll open up the advanced. In the advanced, it will ask us for the table action, whether we want to append the data or overwrite the data. Let's leave it as append because we are running it for the first time. Mappings and settings, will leave it as is. And now we'll try to execute this pipeline. Save and run to see if the data is coming properly or not up to this level. successfully running. Here copy data is queued. We'll click on refresh. It's in progress. Let's try to duplicate this tab to see the Lakehouse. Copy data succeeded. First, we'll see the source where we are connecting to the source. Okay. Here in the input or the source level, we are connecting to the SQL database to the table CumSum and landing it into a table CumSum in the Lakehouse table sync. Okay. Then in the target, we could see the data read, data written, how it is read, how it is written, status, etc. here in the output of the copy activity. This is written. We have duplicated our tab here. We'll go to the workspace, Cloud Knowledge Data Factory workspace, and here we can see at the top that we have the Lakehouse related components created. And here the first three options we can see are related to the Lakehouse which we have created. We'll click on CK Lakehouse. And in the Lakehouse, we'll be seeing the table created. Here is the CumSum table. It's loading the preview here for us. Okay, so the preview is loaded of the CumSum table. Here in the Explorer tab of the CK Lakehouse, we have two sections, tables and files. And since in copy activity, we have selected the option root folder as tables, our data has landed into the tables section, okay, with the table name as CumSum, and the data is same, having 2 columns and 4 rows. If we had selected files, then our CumSum data would have landed under the files section in the Explorer of the Lakehouse. Let's go back here. If we go here in the third section, if we go here in the details, that is the third icon, we could see the source and destination. Source is Azure SQL database and the destination is Fabric Lakehouse. Data read, files written, rows written, status, etc. All these details of the pipeline are shown here. Now we'll make use of the Office 365 Outlook activity in the Fabric. If we click over the activity, copy data activity, at the bottom right side, we could see this green arrow to add new activity. We'll click over it and we'll go at the bottom. The bottom has this section called notifications, where we have Office 365 Outlook activity and Teams activity. Teams we have already covered in the previous video. In this video, we are going to use Office 365 Outlook to send failure as well as success email. Let's click over it. And as soon as Office 365 Outlook activity is selected, it will ask us to grant consent. To use an Office 365 Outlook activity, you must grant consent to use your email address. We'll click OK. It will open up another page where we have to select our enterprise level account. We'll select the account. It will now prompt us to give the confirmation. Confirmation required. You are about to provide access to Office 365 Outlook to a connection created by user, and here is the user ID, and we have to click on allow access. So click on allow access. Created the connection successfully. Here in the notification we could see the connection is created. Now in this activity we have the general tab where we need not make any change. We'll go to the settings tab. Okay, since authentication is already done, it has this button re-authenticate. We need not do anything here because the authentication is already done. Now the settings are as to where do we want to send the email, then subject of the email and body. Okay, this is similar to how we send an email. So in 2, we have to give the email address. Where do we want to send? And as of now, as of today's date, this activity only supports enterprise level email address. So we'll take enterprise level email address here. Okay. Next option is the subject. Since this Office 365 Outlook activity is for the success notification email, in the subject we can write that pipeline succeeded, and then comes the body. In the body, we can add the dynamic content with the details of the pipeline. Add dynamic content. We'll go to the system variables here. From the drop down under the system variables, we can take the workspace ID, then other details also we can take. For that purpose, we can use the concat function, which will concatenate the different items which are given inside it. So we'll use it. First option, let's say we'll write as success, and then let's give a space. Then we can give the pipeline. Then we can give the pipeline run ID. And again, space. Let's give the workspace ID. Okay. So we have given the pipeline run ID and the workspace ID. Click OK. So we have given the subject as well as the body. And if we go to the advanced section, it has few more configurations like from, CC, BCC, sensitivity label, reply to importance. In this example, we are not going to use it. As this activity evolves more, we are going to use those options later. So the basic settings are done in the Office 365 Outlook activity of the Fabric. Now we are going to validate this pipeline and will perform a run. Click on save and run. We'll click on refresh. Copy data is queued. In the meantime, we'll open our Outlook 365. This is our inbox. Here we could see copy data succeeded and Office 365 Outlook 1 also succeeded. In the input, we could see whatever we have configured, and in the output, it is blank, means it has sent the email. Let's go to the Outlook. Here at the top, you can see we've got the details. So here is the new email with the subject pipeline succeeded, and we have given the run ID as well as the workspace ID. We can customize the body as per our requirement. Now, next, we are going to use another Office 365 Outlook activity on failure. So here it was configured to on success. Second option is on fail. So for this purpose, we are going to right click on this existing 365 Outlook activity. We'll copy and we'll paste. So we have another Office 365 activity here. We'll connect it to the on fail output of the copy activity. Okay. And in this also, we'll go to the settings. Since it's a copy of the succeeded one, here we'll write pipeline failed in the subject. Then in the body, it will be failed. Here we'll give space, more space, and click OK. This will only execute if copy data activity is failed. So in order to make this copy data activity failed, we'll make some changes here. Try to make some change which will make it fail. We'll click on the table option edit and we'll write some table name which does not exist there. Let's remove M. So this table SU does not exist there in the Azure SQL database. So ideally this copy activity should fail. Let's click on run, save and run. This setting should make the copy data activity fail, and hence Office 365 configured at the failure output of the copy data activity should run. Let's wait for the execution. Yep, copy data 1 has failed. In the failure message, if you see, it is failed at the source side, and the message is invalid object name, means the table does not exist at the source level. And Office 365 Outlook copy 1 means the second activity has executed successfully. In the input, the configuration which we have given, and in the output, it will be blank, means the email will be sent. Let's go to the email. In the email, we could see pipeline failed notification email has come, which is showing us the body has failed with the run ID as well as the workspace ID. So this is how we could use the Office 365 Outlook activity of the Microsoft Fabric to send success or failure emails. I hope you've got the understanding of the scenario which is demonstrated in this video. We'll keep exploring the new activities and the additions made to the existing activities in the Fabric. Stay tuned to let me know in comments if you have any questions. Happy learning. Bye.